A good action game lives and dies by the strength of its combat, true, but combat mechanics are just one part of the equation. Equally important are the enemies that put those combat mechanics to the test. And so, one of the things I was most curious about during my visit to Respawn was the enemy design of Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Fortunately, I had design director Jason DeHarris and production director Kasumi Shishido to walk me through a handful of new enemy types that are determined to stand in the way of Cal Kestis. Early on, the team at Respawn knew that they wanted to incorporate more droids into the fold as far as enemies go, and true enough, there are tons of droids to fight against in Jedi Survivor, from the weak, fodder-like
Roger, Roger.
B1 battle droids, to the formidable Droidekas, also known as those cool roller droids from the prequel movies. According to Shishido, droids give the team much more freedom when it comes to what they can do and what types of weapons they're able to use. Let's individually check out a handful of these droids and talk about what went into each of their designs. The B1 droids cover the role of the fodder enemy archetype on the planet Kobo. They're as weak as can be, falling to just one saber slash or reflected blaster shot, but they're usually found in large groups and can still be a dangerous threat thanks to their range and their tendency for hitting Cal while they're off screen. Most notably though, their banter is kind of hilarious. Respawn has really upped their game in Jedi Survivor when it comes to amusing enemy conversations. So, while it may be tempting to just wipe them out with a single force push, exercise some restraint for a few moments to let the dialogue play out, and you'll be rewarded with a good laugh. The B2 droids are the bruisers of the droid family. They take a fair amount of hits to bring down and can pack a heavy melee punch while also being armed with both a blaster and a missile launcher to deal damage from afar. There's certainly no pushover, but fall into this really nice spot where once you learn to time parries on their melee attacks, reflect their blaster shots, and always be on the lookout to force pull their missiles, they become much less of a threat. BX droids are among the more agile droids and will surely put your melee combat skills to the test, as they will regularly parry your attacks and execute multi-hitting spin techniques, while also leaping around the battlefield and just being an elusive target. These droids have canonically been shown to use vibro swords and go up against Jedi, which, according to the team, really gave them a perfect mid-level enemy that can go toe-to-toe against Cal without feeling too fragile. You may know them more colloquially as destroyer droids or those rolling droids from the prequels, but they're actually called Droidekas. I didn't get a chance to face off against these in my own playtime, but from what I was told from design director Jason DeHarris, fans should expect them to behave as you'd expect from the movies and shows. As he says, they've got the bubble shield. That's classic to the IP, so we have to use that. We have to find a way to make that into the design. So they've got the bubble shield, they roll, and they actually incorporate that into their melee, so you can't just stun lock it forever, he said. The IG-100 Magna Guards are highly formidable enemies that anyone who's a big fan of the Clone Wars series should immediately recognize. These are General Grievous's elite bodyguards, and as such, they are highly skilled melee warriors that can give a Jedi a run for their money. DeHarris describes the Magna Guards as a superior elite type of enemy that can be offensive, defensive, counter you, and attack in weird rhythms to try and throw the player's own counters off. The Shield Trooper was born from a simple need. The team wanted a Scout Trooper that survived a little bit longer. But as with just about every enemy in Star Wars Jedi Survivor, there are several ways to bring them down. You can hack away at their shield with your lightsaber and eventually knock it away, but that would make you vulnerable to the other enemies surrounding you. You could try to maneuver around it and slash its back, but they're generally pretty good at tracking you, and you'd have to find some way to distract them. The ideal way to deal with them though is to hold down your force pull to yank their shield away, and then Captain America it right back at them. Star Wars Jedi Survivor is full of moments like this where you can use your force abilities in ways that make sense to gain an advantage in combat without explicitly being told to use them. The impetus for the DT Sentry Droid was that the team needed a big brute enemy, and so Respawn turned to Star Wars Rebels and found this guy. One of the things that was really appealing about the DT Sentry Droid as an enemy was that they could have different loadouts, and so There are 3 different variations of this enemy that you'll do battle with. One might have a staff and a missile, another might have a hammer, and another might come equipped with a blaster. Shishido said that fans of Rebels and the Bad Batch should understand how menacing these droids are, and that the first moment you encounter them will be a real oh shit kind of moment. DeHarris also added that these are one of the few droids where you can hack off one of its limbs and it would still come at you, with its combat capabilities impacted by the loss of a limb. The KX security droid enforcer appeared in Fallen Order famously as that droid that likes to grab and chokeslam you. This particular variant, however, will not be doing any chokeslams as they now come equipped with a stun baton, the weapon of the Scout Troopers. The story behind that is that these droids were used as the trainers of Scout Troopers and thus are basically 3 times as dangerous as a Scout Trooper would be. DeHarris said that they wanted to make the KX droid in Survivor a brawler type of enemy that could block and counter, and that they had thought about making it a hybrid style of enemy that could also grab you, but that mixing the archetypes like that often muddies the design. This is but a small sample size of the enemies that players can expect to counter over the course of their journey in Star Wars Jedi Survivor. There are still all sorts of hostile wildlife that you'll encounter on the various planets, plus Imperialists and other human factions like the Bedlam Raiders found on Kobo. It's also just a small part of our continuing coverage of Star Wars Jedi Survivor, so keep checking IGN all throughout the month of February for more.